Okay. Good morning, everybody. It is quite early in the morning, but we had quite a bit of rain last night, yesterday. And even though there was a few storms and all that, and they weren't as extreme as they projected, well, I felt the heart palpitations. I had to take a nap. I felt a little bit of hunger. I actually had to feed myself rice around 10 o'clock p.m. last night, rice with Parmesan cheese and a little bit of salt. And so yeah, it was pretty aggressive last night. And I also felt my arms. My arms were extremely sore. Not extremely sore, but they were sore enough. They were sore enough for me to feel like that when after I felt the movement in my arms, like where my lymph nodes are, then I had to sneeze. Okay. And so that's the body moving the growth in the body throughout the body. And I don't try to stop that energy because that's the way my body is supposed to work. Okay. And so I was talking to my husband last night. He tried to call me through the video phone, and I don't have it on sound, and so it's all silent. So when I saw that he tried to call, I called him back, and he was showing me in, I think it was at North Carolina at the truck stop. He saw all these clouds, It was just one big, huge, billowy cloud, and there's all this lightning inside of it. And there was an object that he could only see through his lens, but not through the naked eye. So, I mean, I have a picture of it. I'm not going to put it on there because he didn't want me to put it on there because it was, but it was, and the lightning was in two different places. And the lightning, and there was objects moving in the background. Okay, so we're heading into July 4th weekend with America and all that. I couldn't tell you if there's going to be any kind of like alien type of actual invasion or some kind of headlines with aliens in it. That is going to be all over the mainstream media. I couldn't tell you. We hear things and we hear stuff in different countries. People talk about Project Bluebeam. I couldn't tell you if it's actually true or if it's something contrived by the government. But I will say this. We are in some amazing, extraordinary times, and whatever happens, keep your cool. Whatever happens, keep your cool and realize that we're in a major, major evolutionary time. We're in a major transition. And I see it in the skies. Yesterday, the skies were I didn't take a picture of it, but it was like so gray. Like the front part was so gray. And then the back part, the backdrop behind the fluffy white clouds, not even really fluffy, it was just a gray. And that's right. The front was gray. The back was like fluffy white. It was a weird contrast between the two. And then there was like a whole rainbow, a half rainbow. And then you saw the pinks and the oranges and the green. I'm not going to say green, but pinks and the oranges and the purples. Okay. And so that also has to do with particles that are in the environment and the sun filtering through the particles, causing different colors. And if you've ever been to like Hawaii or any of those retreats, like in tropical climates, and you see the sunsets, they're gorgeous. I used to live in Hawaii for about 6 months, and the sunsets were gorgeous. And it was because, people say it's like pollution, but yeah, pollution, particle spreading, weather, yeah, it's all the same stuff. Okay, so right now we just just understand that the world is engineered, and it comes from here. It comes from a collective of bodies of people who do run your society, who own massive amounts of companies and governments and all that, and they understand all the different engineering all over the world and everywhere. And so they are keeping things together, and they're also causing the evolution. Okay? They understand both sides. If you understand the conspiracy world from the standpoint of what Alex Jones was trying to tell people about certain families that are in the banking industry, and they understand funding both sides of the war, because that's really what it is. It's getting people pitted against each other, and then evolution comes out. But also it is a type of scale down and psychological operations to help people evolve. And the ones that don't evolve and can't evolve, then they're pitted into the wars. But understand that it's needed. If you understand how stuff works, when you balance out both sides of the equation and you understand both sides are needed, then you can actually do that to yourself in your body, mind, and spirit. Not to somebody else. I mean, people do. The district managers and sales managers, they pit both sides. They pit people against each other. It's a psychological operation to get people to perform and to produce at the level that they want, the level that you have sold yourself to the hiring manager. You have 8 hours to perform. They're going to get the maximum out of you. Okay? And so anyway, so the whole J world is about a case for life. That's what the title of this whole thing is, a case for life, because that's my next book. I'm right now actively thinking about writing my next book. Actually, I'm writing it too as well. And I'm getting myself in that mode, the creativity mode. And then this is where I will be speaking because you want to hear yourself. You want to write. You want to speak things that you are trying to understand and glean out the main thought processes and get rid of all the distraction, all the extra stuff that isn't necessary. And so that's why I also say that you know how influential TV is. Now you see people out there who don't like the programming that's in their body, blame it on the TV, blame it on the right wing, the left wing, the independents, or anyone. And if you finally can release the demons and understand from a certain standpoint, even though you have to be, honestly, you have to be biased. I'm biased for life. Some people promote death and they're okay with that. That's fine. That's their belief system. I'm coming from a standpoint of life, understanding that death also is necessary, but people don't have to die, but if they choose to, you can't stop them. But when there is a type of changing environment, I mean, people can call it death because that's the easiest to understand, but it really is an energy conversion and a change that then certain things get released from the naked eye and they are then going to get converted somewhere else. And so, since I'm coming from the standpoint of life and understanding death and reproduction, the micro level, the macro level, I can watch TV and not let it program me to die. I can watch TV and not let it program me to do certain things that it does trigger other people to either have sex or to go to war with someone or to hate somebody or to love somebody or worship or to go and buy something, because that's what all the commercials do, is they try to get you to buy stuff. So I could watch TV and not feel like I'm going to be programmed. If the only thing I can do to stop being programmed is to turn it off, those are for people who don't have a control over their urges. They don't have hormonal control. They actually are acknowledging how highly triggered and highly programmed they are, that the only thing they can do to protect themselves is to stay away from things that they think they have no control over. Like they don't have control over how other people give them information. So the only thing they do is they can turn it off, which is fine. I wish my fucking trolls would do that, right? Just turn me off. So that way they're not getting triggered, but they want my information. That's why they get triggered and they have to tell me so, but not lately. Okay. So you'll see how influential TV is. And if your children and you, if you're not discerning, then you will become biased. You will be triggered into the fear, the love, the hate, the bribery, the shame, the humiliation, the, brutality. Okay. And so And so you can see how influential TV can be on people. So I can watch something like Suits, okay? And I can get the legal jargon and understand the legal jargon and throw away all the nuances and the in your face about sex, because there's a lot of that in there, sex and other stuff that is used to program society into a specific way. But I'm watching Suits from the standpoint of biology, from the standpoint of disease and cancers, and then my point of view, and understanding arguments. And arguments aren't just developing verbal arguments to get a point across or to try to convert someone or get money out of someone. I look at arguments too as protein arguments. The energy that your body produces is like an argument in a courtroom. Like, courtrooms are like diseases, and everyone's arguing their point, and the outcome is going to be either a cure, someone going to jail, or somebody getting off scot-free for whatever. Okay, and so they're able to be free to come into the body or go out of the body, because all from the standpoint of relative to your perspective, a courtroom case, an argument, or a disease can either enter in the body and cause the body to evolve, or courtroom disease or whatever is in the body is trying to be released. And then that transition process is a courtroom type of thing, and then there'll be a judge, jury, and executioner that will determine whether or not that entity leaving or coming in is able to do what it's intending to do. And to remember, you always have to figure out the perspective from which an opposer is coming from. And so that's why it's so important to understand both sides of an issue. It's training your brain to understand all arguments out there, because opposing counsel, opposing arguments is all relative to who is opposing who. Now, we have specific words like plaintiff and defendant, but that's all about who's beating who to the punch. You're only defendant because you didn't realize there was a lawsuit against you, and now you have to defend yourself. When someone is planning something against you, then they're the plaintiff. Okay, so really the word plaintiff and defendant is all who beats who to the court system first. And so you don't want to have to defend yourself all the time, okay? You want to always provide a case. And you don't want to always be in the courtroom either, because that's where all the sharks are. They smell blood in the water, and that's where all the public hangings are. That's where people are, that's where people are made or broken, is in the courtroom. And, watching Suits and watching what these lawyers go through and binge watching it. Okay, I really urge you guys to watch Suits and binge watch it if you can, because I wouldn't want to have someone's life in my hands. I don't want to save someone. I don't want to be judge, jury, and executioner, because either way you're getting caught up in someone's drama, someone's bullshit, and then you get emotionally tied to it, and then you get destroyed if the outcome isn't favorable. When a person is put in jail and they were innocent, but somebody figured out that people were doing corrupt things, or they didn't submit evidence that would get them off and all that stuff, and so they're on death row and they shouldn't be. Oh my God. And if they didn't get off, and you were the one that was reopening a case and all that, you know how terrible you would feel when someone you defended that you couldn't prove that they were innocent in a murder case that was reopened, and they're going back onto death row. That's why when people want to get justice for somebody's murder, I get getting justice. And if it's really, see, that's the thing. I couldn't even, I get that retribution. I get that, but can people move on without having to destroy someone in return? The whole thing, an eye for an eye and all that stuff, and a tooth for a tooth, or all. I have questions about that, because if you weren't there, if you were not there, how do you know how, and yeah, providing reasonable doubt or not, all that stuff, if you weren't there to lay that kind of judgment of death on someone, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So, so I was looking at the legal system. I don't want to be defending someone or prosecuting someone. What I want to use the legal system for is to protect myself. All self-protection. and provide my own case about things that I understand that I want to change, and doing it in a legal way. And in the health and wellness world, I don't want to save anyone, because again, you are walking into a world of hurt when you try to save people in politics, in religion, and in science, and prosecute people. Unless you have a legal standing to prosecute someone because of what they did to you physically, in the same room, in the same presence, and you're in some kind of contracts with them in all that relationship. But if you're not, don't go and save somebody. Don't go and try to prosecute someone. Develop your own case around something. And so that's what using the medical holistic system is, not for someone to save you, or you go and or you go and save somebody else. It's for your own education to understand the platform and how you want to use the system to your benefit versus you trying to save or hurt somebody else. Okay? And so and the legal system, use it for your benefit, not so you can exploit somebody else for your gain. And that's kind of what's going on with all these different companies out there. Corporate litigation, all that stuff. I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely, I mean, I'm fascinated by the back and forth around it, but it takes a lot out of you. And so if you can study the legal system and the medical holistic system from the standpoint of understanding what they're doing and how you want to use them, and understand that there are two outcomes. There's either indefinite life or indefinite death. Okay? And so when you study the system out there, then you can make a choice versus giving your body, mind, and spirit to somebody else. And that's the same thing with religion, because religion has the absolution, like major absolution. It's like you can make all these mistakes and somebody will say it's okay, and then eventually when all the mistakes accumulate into where there's no recourse, no turning back, then a priest or a rabbi or someone will give you the ultimate absolution on your deathbed. So I don't want to get into that absolution. I don't want to get, so what I do is I just study everything and understand where it's coming from. I don't have any intolerance to other people's stuff. Just don't put it on me. But I'm pointing out that when people say they want to live and they want to live and they want to live and they're tired of being in pain, well, there's a certain amount of pain in life. It's all relative to how much of a deficit you're in. But I can sure as tell you that those in the religious world do not want to die. Even though they want to have some kind of peace and use all the different remedies and surgeries and things to help alleviate their pain, you know the end result. And so I'm not intolerant to that. I'm just pointing out that maybe we have been brainwashed into self-destruct. And could you question your religion, your politics, and your science? Even though you've been raised with it and had it pounded into you for years, could you question it bit by bit and allow it to keep going to the wayside so you can save yourself, so you don't end up in rest in peace, and that you can survive the energy conversion to the body going through an evolution. Okay? And so, a case for life. Let me just read this. Alien suits, how influential TV is, and it's not a bad thing. It's what you feed your mind. The TV will offer you different types of programming, but you can pick up the jewels to back up your claims. TV can be quite influentially positive to your intentions. Okay, so what you feed your mind. I don't watch all the comedy stuff all the time. I don't watch the romantic comedies. I used to. When I was caught up in the Disney, Prince Charming, I'm going to go find my Prince Charming. I found my Prince Charming, now what? What's next? All right, he's not really Prince Charming. He's my husband. And he has his own foibles and things he has to deal with. Okay? So TV can be quite influentially positive to your intentions. And so I do not pathologize life and evolution, but I'm going to tell you, the medical holistic system, energy healing world, in politics, in religions, all religions, spirituality, and science dogmas pathologize life. Even though they say, yeah, life is precious, but at the end of the day, the outcome is the intention. When you are actively trying to find a doctor to stop a situation, you are pathologizing life. When you're looking for a naturopathic, homeopathic, allopathic, a chiropractor, an herbalist, an extract person, a surgeon, an acupuncturist, you are pathologizing life. What does it mean by pathologizing? Well, let's look up the word pathologize, because people don't know what words mean, and some people look it up, others don't. Pathologize, regard as a threat. Regard or treat. Okay, someone, something as psychologically abnormal or unhealthy. People pathologize life, and they use aggressive means on their life. They attack life. People attack life. They attack evolution. And politics, religion, science, and the medical holistic system, energy healing world attacks evolution. And you see people in the holistic world who are taking the ivermectins along with their food. They say, oh yeah, eat a bunch of food, right? Because food's good. But here, take all this ivermectins against the life in your body when they're feeling symptoms. And they're in the holistic world. And they're taking something like an ivermectin that is so aggressively pharmaceutical that they say they're against, but not really, because they're using it like it's fucking candy, because they don't want to feel the energy conversion that's happening right now. And so, oh God, I do not pathologize life and evolution, but the system does. That's the difference between me and the J world and everyone else. If you really understood where I was coming from, you wouldn't attack human life or starve it. And you see people starving it. They're taking food away from their children and away from themselves, away from their husbands or wives, their mothers or fathers or sisters or brothers, everyone around them, and they're making people afraid of food. They are inducing fear and shame and humiliation around food. But in reality, people who have issues with obesity or emaciation is that they have either a poor release process or a shitty ass retention process because of the types of food that they ingest. What do you mean by types of food? Well, when you're always using spicy stuff, when you're always just eating vegetables all the time and that's it, when you are afraid of meat, milk, cheese, eggs, and fruits and vegetables and all that stuff, and you're afraid of all the food in the food supply, and you're only promoting breatharian and fasting and air sandwiches, yeah, people are emaciated because they're not bringing in the fats. They're afraid to feel stuff. And they're always eating probiotics. Probiotics converts the sugars into proteins. Probiotic salt is not a bad thing like the J juice, but it has a curative effect. It'll work opposite over time. It won't allow you to evolve, and you won't release, and you'll hold that shit in. We realized that in the J world in the beginning when people were getting constipated, which is why I learned how to open up my alimentary canal. Because the J juice can make you constipated because it cures. It has a curative effect. But you don't want to be cured in a dynamic environment, because that would mean you would end up in continuous entropy because you wouldn't evolve. You're not hungry, and you're not releasing, and you're not going through the energy conversions you need to keep alive. It's not deadly, but as you see over time, you saw my Facebook reels, and I showed you all my pictures of myself. You saw how skinny I was. And then suddenly I finally was able to gain the weight before climate change. And then when the COVID-19 came around, I then got off the J juice because the ionic environment was giving the energy conversions. I didn't need the J juice, and I wasn't going to cure myself. And I fed all the symptoms. I was eating steaks when I had the headaches. I was making sure I had the food in me. I didn't realize the power of cream and milk until later on, but I was eating steaks. I was feeding myself during those energy conversions. All right? And so we realized over time, some of us in the J world, is that when you finally saved yourself, you realize trying to save others is a losing venture. You can see those who haven't even saved themselves trying to save others. It's an exercise in futility, but it is interesting to watch, like watching mice in a lab. And while I'm analyzing the world, You know the world is analyzing me, but I know where they come from, okay? I know the system that I belong to. It's a life-giving system, and it's release. It's not an attack. I don't attack anyone. I don't attack my evolution. I don't attack any proteins in my body. I don't go and see anyone to take away the pain. I don't even use a therapist to talk about anything, because what do? I talk to myself on Facebook Live, and there's an audience or there's not an audience, and I release the demons, and I write to release. I articulate my position when I'm so pissed about something or energetic and need to release because of memories and things come up. You saw the last week what I wrote. And then there's an intention. It's not just throwing up on people and then leaving them in some kind of mess. No, I have organized my release process so it's not destructive. It is going to be beneficial to not only me, but potentially someone else who may need to figure out how to release in a constructive way. But we see people out there that don't know how to release in a constructive way. They release in a very destructive way. And that's why you see either the died suddenlies and they've destroyed themselves, or they're harming somebody else. Violence and using machinery to be violent against somebody. And that's right now what's going on in a highly accelerated environment. When people have not figured out how to condition their body to release in a constructive way, the body will go through that instinctive process that could have been redirected, but no, then people turn to the things that they wouldn't ordinarily do, like violence. Like they can't control their urges. Sometimes it's very predatory, and they become strategic in how they hunt things, like for sex and all of that. Okay? And so I know what system I belong to. And I know what system those who are analyzing me belong to. I don't pathologize life. The system I'm up against does. That's the medical, holistic, energy, healing world, surgical system, everything. So then this is a case for proving that there is a type of depopulation that it's not new. It's just now you're more aware of how it manifests in the energy, holistic medical system. You've accepted those systems for years. You've accepted death for years. You just didn't realize that it could be accelerated in a higher frequency environment. But you already signed on the dotted line when you paid your insurance premiums to go and hunt for a doctor, a specialist, a surgeon, an oncologist, an herbalist. You've already signed on the dotted line. You've already made that transaction, that contractual agreement that someone systematically takes away your life systematically. When you hang out with all the holistic people, you are systematically in a contractual agreement that somebody recommends something that is FDA approved to take away your life systematically, slowly, and then the environment will then accelerate the intentions. The environment will produce life, you will attack it. The environment will produce life, you will attack it until there's no more, until you are in palliative, hospice, and then trying to do Hail Marys, and it's futile. And so then you have to look at the court system. Any kind of courtroom drama is like a disease trying to leave the body, and somebody is stopping it, arguing a case, applying a remedy or a cure, a legal remedy. Or it's a disease trying to enter into a body and the body's resisting, and somebody's arguing a case, applying a legal remedy. Everything is about contracts and negotiation, offer, consideration, and acceptance. Someone's either convicted or set free or innocent. And then you look at how proteins react to each other. And when you feel what you feel, and then you feel an energy and then your reaction, you feel an energy, then a reaction. The type of reaction is relative to what your intention is. When you're in conversation with people, action, reaction, action, reaction. When you're commenting back and forth on a timeline, action, reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction. So action, reaction is motion to dismiss, motion for this, motion for that. That's all the arguments when you're trying to argue a case, or at least get into the courtroom for a judge to hear a case, to go to trial. Okay, so motion two, deposition, sworn evidence, proving your case with precedents. Okay, you're looking up case files or actual physical proof or affidavits. Someone signed an affidavit, they did this or they did not do this. Okay, so filings are all action, reaction, motion to. Virus, vital information resource under siege. Okay, so a virus is a protein. A virus could be a person who has a new idea. A virus could be a computer script that is trying to commandeer your computer's intentions and redirect. Okay? So a virus is vital information resource under siege. So when the climate changes and the particles accelerate and you're feeling the energy and you're feeling your body go through a growth, okay, and you're producing energy. So when your body is trying to release, and maybe you allow it, maybe you don't, I don't know, but when your body is releasing a protein of algorithms that has all the different DNA, the antigen antibody programming of fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals, and then somebody else catches that in a massive way, like in a spray because you sneezed on them, then they get infected. But relative to how their body is able to deal with evolution is all relative to how their body manifests a disease, or just a sneezing, a coughing, a blowing the nose, or just a nice evolution. So everyone is responsible in protecting themselves. Protecting yourself. Why should I have to wear a mask unless I'm protecting myself? But then, was that making you weak? See, the system is implying that either you're a demon, or you are saving yourself, but not really. You're weakening yourself because you have to be able to adapt to your environment. But again, if you're not prepared for that adaptation, then you have to slow down the exposure. But eventually you're going to have to adapt. So, so the system is right. And the system can take things to extreme and psychologically make you think that if you don't do this, this, and this, people were not prepared to deal with growth. And if they were prepared to deal with growth, it was because they always had something to attack the growth. And the system knows the soup, but they're not going to tell you in so many words. So protein or intellectual filings, antibiotic equals opposite counsel. It doesn't matter which side you are on. Everyone is opposing counsel. Objection equals sustained. Okay, trial is symptoms. So when you're in a courtroom drama, you're going through a disease. You're going through that transition point, like a gate. Like when you go to gate to heaven or a gate to hell, you have to sit there and talk to the angel or God or talk to the devil, and they negotiate your terms and conditions of you entering into or leaving something, right? And so the trial are the symptoms. Something coming in and something leaving, and you're negotiating whether or not you can handle something coming in or something leaving. And again, that's all relative to your perception. And again, the medical holistic industry tries to stop both. And then you're in a curative state, but then the environment's going to take you down. And so trial equals symptoms. Judgment equals conviction or not guilty. Not guilty equals probiotic, right? Because guilty is antibiotic and the prison is a cure. So when someone is proven guilty, they are shown to be against the life of that situation. Oh, they did this, 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 and this. And someone's making accusations, and then they provided proof of those accusations of intent. And you can look up how all the elements of a case of proving somebody guilty and all the arguments. But and so not guilty is probiotic, so you're set free, and then guilty is antibiotic, you are shown to be of a danger to somebody, and then prison is the cure. Now you're in a prison or you're fined. Someone's taking out resources from you to disable your ability to go and do that again, or they put you in a prison and they hold you in a cell and you can't move. And then when you can't move and you're in a prison and there's people in prison that want to take your resources, that's when some people don't survive prison unless they're strong. Okay? And so prison, being in a curative state, in prison, people die in prison. They die out there too. Everyone has their own different prison. But when it comes to the community and the community figures out you are a danger to the life, then they put you in a curative status. And so that's the medical, holistic, energy healing, all the acupuncture, all that stuff. It's all type of prison to keep you under a certain type of existence, not allowing evolution or too much energy conversion. But remember, you're supposed to have a certain amount of energy conversion so you can adapt. You try to stop most of the energy conversion or take away the major ones when the body has to go and evolve and needs to get to the next evolution. You stop it. That's the aging process. That's the deterioration process. Because the more aggressive your disease is, the more the body wants to live. The less aggressive the disease is, the body just going through an evolution and you're able to handle it. You have enough proteins and enough energy and enough body and enough wherewithal to handle that energy conversion. But when someone is diagnosed, a major diagnosis, they have practiced so many years of antibiotics and stopping the body from releasing, as well as other stuff. Just a very antibiotic lifestyle. And what does that mean? Say drugs, alcohol, lots of sex, and so many remedies and surgeries and so much trauma to the body, accidents, getting in bar fights, getting into fights, doing high risk type of sports, always getting injured and all that. So there's so much damage to the body. And so eventually the body is going to want to live and redouble its efforts to go and push out the damaged cells and bring on the new body. But people are resisting that. And they take medication, they do things to stop it. So the medical holistic system keeps you in a prison with occasional trial by jury and conviction. Sometimes people are set free, but for a minute, right? When you're negotiating how you're going to stop an energy, and so you go get an oncology, a pill, power supplement, detox, or something, and so maybe you get free from that energy, from that pain, but that only lasts so long before the body goes and figures out antibiotic resistance and redoubles its effort to try to release the damage and bring on the hunger so you can eat. People are like, oh, I'm afraid to eat. So when they eat food that is trying to give them the nutrients and give them the power to release, they stop it. Okay, that's why people say, I don't want to drink milk. It's bad for me. I feel stuff. Oh my God, I'm allergic. Okay, yeah, you're allergic because you don't understand how to release the demons. You're allergic because you've been around people who use food as medicine, and you don't want to feel the body trying to release, trying to gain the arsenal to release those demons that are torturing your body. And so that's why people end up passing away from all of that. So eventually you end up in the morgue. All right. And the ultimate prison, the ultimate cure. And so that's why you have to be able to take on the food, release the damaged cells, and realize to what extent you are in deficit. And we have a lot of people who are bearing babies and children at an older age, in their 40s, and they're also in major deficit because they've dealt with their own predisposed issues. And now these kids are in such extreme deficit that becoming whole again and being able to handle a very aggressive atmosphere, it is questionable if they'll survive. And so places like Africa, places like Northeastern Europe, Northern Eastern, whatever, the Nordic Netherlands, people built like brick shit houses up there, like Norway and all those, and Netherlands and Sweden and all that, and Germans and all that. And then the Africans in Africa, they're strong. Anything in between that is in such deficit because of so much innovation, it'll be questionable in a highly, highly aggressive environment. That's why I say parents can't change. They're leveraging their kids' future because it's only going to get hotter. I felt the heat yesterday. I felt all my lymph nodes opening. I felt the hunger. I'm packing on eating food. I gained, a few pounds to make sure I can handle this. I'm not too obese and I'm not too skinny, but everything on me is now made for this environment. And I can handle the energy conversion. But when you have some skinny child, a very skinny child, whose parents are taking food away from them, taking gluten away from them, taking sugar away from them, applying natural remedies or oncology or anything else because of so many issues. Can you imagine that kid actually be able to survive? It's going to be difficult if they don't get diagnosed with aggressive disease later on. When kids are growing up deficient, that's going to be harder to become whole again when you're growing up deficient. When you're finicky about food because of the pains. Oh, kids have stomach pains. I remember having a lot of stomach pains as a kid. Maybe I was hungry too because sugar was off the table. Salt was off the table. Junk food was off the table. No real red meat. We had chicken and fish, mac and cheese and hot dogs. We occasionally go out to eat Asian food. But do we have a big, huge steak in front of us? No. Because what I was raised with was somebody who had a blood type A and B, and their diet of a blood type A and B was mostly vegetables, fruits, chicken, and fish, but not real red meat, not a lot, hardly any junk food. And so, yeah, coming here to Ohio, I finally had to catch up to my peers. And so, yeah, I packed on the fucking pounds. Absolutely. And yeah, my issues of PMDD were getting really aggressive. But, and I almost, if I wanted to give my life to a company, I almost got a hysterectomy because of the PMDD. Almost did. I almost disfigured myself for a company. I almost died for a company. Okay? So, let me go back to this. When you defend people, you put away so you can cut a deal with somebody else. And that's kind of the intricacy of the different action, reaction, and what would you call that? The complex storyline of Suits is that when Mike Ross ended up in jail because he admitted that he was practicing law without a credential. And so his friend who hired him then, had somebody in the same jail that he put away that was then attacking Mike Ross. And so everyone was all cutting deals with each other. So it ended up at some point that Mike Ross's friend Harvey was then representing both of them and cutting deals with them and playing those games. And it's like it's all strategy and people pretending to be your friend, pretending to be in your corner, pretending stuff so they can get leverage on you. And this is all about leverage. See, the biology is about leverage. The medical holistic system, the energy healing world, all the spirituality, politics, religion, science dogmas, all about leveraging over somebody else. Leverage. Look up leverage. How you can be put in a better light and make the other person be in a poor light. Now, am I doing that? Not necessarily. I'm just saying that, hey, if you want to live and you say you want to live, then when you're in a system that has already leveraged you in positive religion and science, won't let you evolve, your friends and family won't let you evolve, won't let you change, they keep recommending you go get something done and taken out, you're being leveraged. I'm trying to tell you that the way to save yourself is to start questioning your belief systems. Not that I'm trying to save you, but I'm saying, hey, if you really believe that life is precious, you wouldn't attack it, you wouldn't try to cure it, and you wouldn't try to cut it out and cause trauma to your body. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to put any positive religion science dogmas in a poor light. What I'm trying to say is there's an intention behind it. There's double entendres, there's double speak, there's contexts. Everything is about balance, but the more that you apply attacking your proteins, attacking the life in your body, and cutting it out, the more trauma you do to yourself, the harder it is to come back from in a highly, highly, highly aggressive environment. So I'm not trying to leverage over anything. I'm just saying, hey, do what you want. I'm not trying to stop you from doing what you want. That's why I don't go into people's pages and argue with them and try to convert them. I just speak my piece and try to be as diplomatic as possible and saying you have a chance to save yourself. You have a fucking chance. You have a chance of not being leveraged by people who want to grind, have an axe to grind with you. You have a chance of overcoming someone using your past against you. You have a chance to explain everything about everything that you've probably ever done that you don't know why you did. And then you're able to go back, if you can remember, if you get off the drugs and you can remember stuff, that you have a chance to get away from those that mean to destroy you. Okay, that's all. And I'm not trying to save you. I'm just trying to give you the information so you now have a choice. Because that's the Freemasons, that's the Rosicrucians. My book is saying the Rosicrucians are giving people a choice. We can't make the choice for you. We can't force convert you. But if you're not willing to open up your mind, your body, your spirit, and let in some new information so you can figure out how to save yourself, then you're doing it to yourself. No one is doing it to you. And your activism and blaming and all that stuff is just an exercise in futility. And that's how the system gets you. And they're not even in your house. They're not even next to you. They're not even in your presence. When you're resisting things that are like miles and miles and miles away, you have been manipulated. Just realize that. Because someone has a different idea doesn't mean that they're trying to force anything on you. All you got to do is block and delete me. All you gotta do is not watch my videos. But why do people who don't like me or don't like my information watch my videos and press unlike? Because they're trying to convert me. They're still trying to get leverage over me using shame, brutality, humiliation, love, bribery. They're into that conversion. They're trying to force conversion on somebody. That's what the system is trying to say. Stop force converting people. If you don't agree with them, if you don't like what they have to say, if you don't believe what they believe, then stay in your own fucking world. But don't try to convert somebody else. Okay? And so speak your piece on your own Facebook. But we're going to watch those in third world countries that are coming up. Let's say like Africa. They're going to be using all the different philosophies. And they will be going into financial wars with each other. Watch Africa. Follow the influencers in Africa. See their tactics are no different than the tactics in the first world. Through YouTube, through Facebook, through websites, you will see them doing exactly what we've been doing. And you've already seen it because they've been posting all their links about doctors and herbologists can give you a cure for this, this, and that. And here's my WhatsApp number from like Nigeria or some other place. Okay? And so they're already practicing what we've been doing with the MLMers and all of their supplements and detoxes. And they're going to go down the same road we're going down. They're going to be going through the surgeries, all the different pills, powder supplements, and detoxes taken down notch by notch, given all the different therapies, oncology, basically slowly and then accelerating the weaknesses as they have children, more children and more children. They're going to be, we're going to be 12.9 billion, the largest. That's why they want to see a population rise, and then it's going to be a fall. Because even Africa and India and all that, they'll go, I mean, India's a lot of people. Geez, China, Africa, 1 billion, China, 1 billion, India, 1 billion. And there's a lot of pharmaceutical companies in India. And Africa's coming up and coming. China, we already know where that's going to go at some point. And so, when you have such a population boom, that's going to weaken the genetic lines. Every single time you reproduce, somebody's in deficit. That's a weaker generation. And so when you keep having babies, every generation, and no one's becoming whole again because they were never taught that. They were taught to attack their evolution with herbs, extracts, cannabis, detoxes, food mitigation, fear around food. Every genetic line will be weaker and weaker and weaker. And we see it in America. We see it in the kids today. They're coming out weaker and weaker and weaker, and moms are having their babies at 40 and 50. Oh, yeah. These kids don't stand a chance. I wouldn't want to be a kid in this society today. Oh, fuck no. It was hard enough in the 80s, but I would not want to be a kid today. Oh, no. Let me blow my nose again. All right, so that's the legal system mixed in with the medical system and the holistic system, right? Basically, it's like using your enemies as your friends, using them as a tool for your own agenda. But the enemy you're using also has leverage over you, using you as a tool as well. Mutually beneficial quid pro quo. And that's I don't want to use anyone. That's why I just kind of stick in my own corner and make a case for myself and my information. I write books. And I write stuff on Facebook, and I'm writing my book and putting on some of this stuff on Facebook so you guys can see where I'm coming from. And that way you have the benefit of the information before the book comes out, because it's going to be at least until 2030 that my book comes out. So I want to make sure it's perfect. And it'll give me time to save up for it. Okay? And I yet to figure out what publishing company. Will I use the same one? I don't know. We'll see. And so, when I'm writing, you guys will see how the book is being written. You'll see the different points that I'm making. So that way you can immediately get the intellectual understanding of where I'm coming from. And then my book that I have out right now that's circulating is the physical side of where I'm coming from. And gives you the background of the society that you live in Africa, in Indonesia, in China, in India, in America, in Australia, New Zealand, the whole New World Order. Rosicrucian is the Hermetics, the Jewish mystics, the Christian Gnostics. Then there's the Egyptian part of that, the Greek gods, the Greek mythology, and you're getting everything and all the different religions under the sun, spirituality, the New Age. Hermetics is all the New Age, as above, so below, and then all of the absolution and the spirituality. Everyone feeling comfortable with death. Because some people are too far gone. They're going to have to find some way to get whatever absolution. Whether it's through being a starseed and being loved to death, or a pastor or a rabbi or somebody saying, you're going to go wherever and you feel, I don't know, you're going to see the light or something. I don't know. So, okay. So now this is why I want to make sure you guys realize this. So nobody can leverage you. When you're seeing the articles, okay? When you're seeing articles where somebody is shamed into having a child. How do you mean by they're shamed into having a child? Because people don't realize how hard it is to have a baby. Okay? They don't realize how hard it is to have a baby. And so they have mass amounts of sex. They're told that they need to find a man. Their hormones are out of control. They need to find a man, go get married. And that didn't happen because the guy's like, I'm not marrying crazy. And so then she gets pregnant. She has the kid. And now she's a single mom. And she didn't realize, and she was too young to even understand the long-term consequences of having children and how hard it is, especially if things are, especially in this society now. And she ends up just saying, fuck it. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go and have fun. Like, this is like her first exposure to afford a vacation, and the only thing that's stopping her is this kid, and no one wants to watch her child because maybe she doesn't have any family. And then the media is then capitalizing that, and the kid dies because she's on vacation. And it's like, that girl was set up to fail. Because we have the right wing, they're saying everyone that gets pregnant should have a kid, but nobody should. But that's the thing, you can have a kid, but you can give it away. Okay, so there's that side of it, and I understand that side of it. That's fine. If you get pregnant and you happen to do the deed, okay. But forced parenting on someone, no. But no one forced her, but maybe that she felt she had to, because if she gave up the kid, then she looked down upon, and that's also a stigma, is giving up your child. But then people are seeing that when people do have children and they keep it and they abuse it, and the kid ends up messed up, or they've seen some crazy stuff, or the kid just dies, then people are realizing that we shouldn't be forcing people to have children, or forcing them to be parents, or shame them into be parents. Because you see all the people that are like, oh yeah, the deadbeat dads and the deadbeat moms, they walked away, and you see that shame go on. So then when people are seeing that people are making fun of those or shaming those that wanted to walk away, that didn't want to deal with crazy, didn't want to be tied to the mother and wasn't ready to have a kid, but yeah, they wanted to have sex, but that's because of crazy ass hormones, because of the circumcision and the images and the society being programmed to have massive amounts of sex, and the porn industry. Well, then you're seeing them like, oh yeah, they're a deadbeat dad and this and that. No. If you choose to raise a child, good for you. Thank you for your service. But you chose to raise a child. Now we're seeing that there are places where you can give up a child to the fire department, and they give it to social services, and they will adopt it out to a good family. Okay? So this whole of shaming dads and moms for walking away is why people are having kids that shouldn't have them and keeping them, and then end up the kid gets destroyed because the parent really wasn't into it, but they were shamed by the people around them indirectly because what somebody said about somebody else around Father's Day, around Mother's Day. That's why these kids end up dead with single parents, because somebody shamed somebody into not stepping up. And so the media and opposition uses tactics of using shame, fear, bribery, brutality, humiliation, love, sex to make somebody move or develop a perception and leverage over someone. Not everybody is cut out to be a parent. So stop shaming people into parenthood. Yeah, they did the deed, but you know how hormones are out of control. The system sets everyone up to fail right out of the gate. Fairy tale wedding, Prince Charming, and hypersexuality. And not everyone wants to be connected to their ex. Okay? Let me tell you, I don't blame some of the guys out there that some of these women are pretty brutal. Not only to themselves, but to other people. I wouldn't blame the guy not wanting to be connected to their ex. I completely understand. And if that means walking away from your kid, that's probably the best thing for the kid and for that parent walking away. But if that person is brutal, how are you going to say? I mean, it's not up to that parent to save that kid. When you're trying to save a kid or save a dog or save somebody, now you're entering into a war zone that you may not survive. And so why just at this point now it's up to the system and that parent and that child all to work together, because you're walking away from the war. It's not your war. You can't save something that you absolutely have no control over. And when parents think they can save their kids from an ex or from another parent, that parent will be throwing daggers and try to stop you from anything. And that's where the war, that's where the destruction. So you just have to let the parent that's in charge just deal with it and take care of it if they want to. Because again, they have a choice. They can give it to the system can adopt it out. But I'm tired of those that say that they are saints because they chose to raise that kid. They didn't have to. And so now we need to give an avenue and an allowance for people to just give up their kid to somebody else because they wouldn't be able to give it the best life. And so make it okay to give up your kids to the system if you don't want them to take care of your child. It's okay. But you know how friends and family and people are, they will shame them to death. That's why tell your kids now, you know how hard it is to have a kid? Oh, let me tell you, I was raised in a left-wing household. Abortion was the thing. Why even go through the war? Just don't even deal with, and I'll tell you, it's, I mean, everyone has their ideas about abortion or giving up your kid or having it, but the reason why we are even in that situation of abortion or giving up your kid to the system if you can't take care of it is because we have put so much emphasis on sexuality, so much emphasis on family, so much emphasis on relationships, hypersexual relationships, that inevitably a kid's going to come out of that. Okay? And so when you're putting all your eggs in a basket of somebody else and a kid comes out of that and they think that's going to help seal the deal, it actually will cause more cracks if you're not really prepared for what it takes. And nobody is prepared for what it takes to raise a kid. Because no matter which way you go to one extreme or the other. Survival in a society that doesn't survive, then now you're just producing weapons against the system. Because you, mom and dad, believe in dying, but in a slower frequency environment, there's a way to kind of manage that death process so it's not so destructive towards the very end. But in this highly accelerated environment, the destruction process, the breakdown process is highly accelerated. And so do you really have what it takes to raise a kid so they can actually survive the environment and survive their peers and survive the predators and survive disease and still be a functioning, productive, innovative, intellectual member of society? These parents don't know what the fuck they're entering into when they have a kid now. All right? So I was looking at an article on Facebook, and it's a lady, it was about perimenopause and menopause, and the article was saying that, oh, hey, you have to take perimenopause and menopause extremely seriously. And I didn't read the article, so I'm like, oh my God. But I look at the comments, because I want to see people react to those kind of articles, and you see so many women are like, oh yeah, doctors have to pay more attention to women. Doctors are not giving women enough credit or enough of their time. I remember even my mom saying, oh yeah, if you want to go, figure out your PMDD and get some kind of birth control or something to help manage your hormonal symptoms, go see a woman doctor, Jillian. Go see a woman doctor, Jillian. If you have a gynecologist, go see a woman gynecologist, not a man gynecologist. And I'm like, okay. But anyways, I see, and that's why I screenshotted those two pictures, the picture of the actual article and the headlines, and then the screenshot of the women that were basically asking for someone to find a way to paint a way that they would think is pain-free to take away their body's natural processes, to attack their reproductive system. And so the programming runs deep for people to attack their potential evolution of longevity and potentially immortality. People are voluntarily getting their body parts cut out of their system because they've had their evolution mischaracterized. I almost agreed to a potential hysterectomy when my PMDD got so bad in the way of my job in 2016, when I was working at this life insurance company as a telemarketer, telesales, selling life insurance to people. And I was aggressive. I was strategic. I was competitive. And I was making okay money. I mean, let me tell you, I was killing myself. And then my PMDD reared up. And that's what taking the kombucha. That's when, right before I discovered the J juice, I was drinking so much kombucha. And then all the acids were chipping away at my top part of my tooth. And so there was one part of my tooth that actually just crumbled because of how much kombucha I was drinking to try to see if that would be like a remedy against my symptoms while I was working. And so then when I would call in sick and then I would then I would say, okay, I called in sick, then I come back the next day, I'm talking to the HR person. I'm like, all right, I have this PMDD. It so sucks. Once I get health insurance, I will see if I can go get a hysterectomy and just have everything taken out. Because I'm so tired of feeling all these crazy ass symptoms. That's the only thing I could think of when I read all the different symptoms. And it's always coming around the time that I had my period of the depression, the bloating, the anxiety, the fatigue, all that stuff that goes along with the body trying to release demons and gain the pressure. And of course, that gets in the way. It puts you in a fog. You can't perform in your job when you're dealing with that. And so what's my only recourse at the time that was offered to me was either take more drugs, right? Get prescribed drugs. I didn't have any drugs at the time. I was letting things go through. That's why I'm so evolutionary, because I've always let the evolution happen. I didn't get on any drugs like Prozac that was recommended to me even in 2003 or 4. But I was telling her, once I get the health insurance, I'm going to go to hysterectomy. And she was just like, that's a real serious operation to get. And so what I was actually saying was to her, in not so many words, is I'm going to sacrifice my body, my mind, my spirit, my life for this company. I'm going to disfigure myself for this company. And then I guess something said it didn't work out and I ended up leaving that job. I ended up going to actually visit my parents. And a couple weeks after that, I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book. I figured something out. I'm leaving this job. I'm writing a book. And then the rest is history. Okay. And so I almost agreed to a potential hysterectomy when my PMDD got so bad in the way of my life, in my job, when I was here in Ohio in 2016. I almost died for a company. I almost disfigured myself for a company. I saved my own ass. Severe disease means the body wants to live and you keep attacking its desire to stay alive. That's why you have to feed disease and discomfort and understand my process. And no, it's not the J juice people claim is the savior. That's their abuse of using something that is a relative curative effect temporarily. And it's so good that people get constipated. And then that's when I learned how to pick out the shit out of my ass and open up my system. So there was an actual reason why we have to understand the J world was how strong it is, the J juice. It definitely has a curative effect, but on someone that's a bigger body or has predisposed issues, they're going to feel the body go through an immunological response. That's what the lady on Dr. Phil was saying, is that I woke up her system. That's why she felt the heart attack and stroke, but she survived it. Why? Because she had substance to her. She had body to her. But someone who's skinny, probably, if they got a heart attack, I don't know. I doubt that. When someone's skinny, they would probably be in some kind of like curative type of situation. It would cure them faster. Like me, I got pretty cured on the J juice. It did bring up stuff, yes. Because releasing all that, when I'm drinking like a quart or 2.5 quarts at the time, and some of you saw me drinking it on Facebook. Man, when I had to do those waterfalls, it was just waterfall after waterfall. Eventually, I didn't eat as much. And I stayed away from milk and meat and carbs. So all I was eating was like chicken and potato. Maybe I was rice, I don't know, eggs. Okay. So I was skinny, but I could not get away with that in this environment. Being skinny in this environment will destroy you. But back then you saw how powerful the J juice was. Some people were getting cured, other people were getting an immunological response. So there's no way I can claim anything, because some people's bodies would cause them to release the demons. Other people's bodies would then be cured, and they wouldn't feel anything, and they would find relief. And that's why I got so many different types of testimonies. People loved me and they hated me relative to their body types. Oh, it was such an interesting time. I would never go back to there. I would never do that again. I would never do that again as far as go back to that. I mean, that was a one-time only deal. All right. That's why you don't want to ever have, when you finally figure out my information and understand it, you'll never visit cancer again. That will never happen, because you'll know how to deal with it. You'll never have to go back to some of the most aggressive things you're dealing with today if you've ever dealt with them. And so which is why food, milk, meat, cream, and staying off the probiotics when you are skinny. So skinny people stay off the probiotics because all it does is it converts the sugars into proteins. You need the fat. Okay? So skinny people need the fat. And even someone who's not really obese people need the probiotics, but not the J juice. They need the probiotic. They need the kefir. Really obese people, because that's going to help them release all those demons. But it's going to take a minute. That's the thing is that nothing is instantaneous. It is a process. When you're elderly, when you're obese, when you're really skinny, nothing is overnight. You see what was going on the last 7 years, and I was relatively healthy with PMDD. I didn't have any diagnosable conditions. I was only 40-something years old. I met my husband when I was like 37. I met my husband when I was 37. Okay? I'm 49. 49, 48, 47, 46, 45, 44, 43, 42. I was like 42 when the J World came out. 42 years old. And now I'm 49. That's crazy. That's freaking crazy. And increasing probiotics when you are obese, but not the salt probiotics. Sugar, milk, kombucha, grain probiotics, because it gets converted into proteins, but you still don't want to have so much. You want to eat food and pull out the shit. You want to do too much of anything. You want to have a nice balance, okay? You see how women get radicalized into thinking they are disenfranchised, and they beg for the system to destroy them. That's the thing about the perimenopause. Because perimenopause when I said that you want to stay in perimenopause and not want to get into menopause, because perimenopause is the body going through an energy conversion, and there's always going to be something in the environment that's going to take away. Once you get through all of your predisposed issues, and then you're feeling stuff like the hot flashes, and I'm not saying you're going to go through bone loss, but the environment is so active that, yes, minerals are going to be used. And you could say bone loss, but not really, because you'll actively then replenishing those minerals to replenish the bone. That's why the milk and the calcium and the cream. And so in an activated environment like this, you want to be in continuous perimenopause. You don't want to be menopausal. You want to be in perimenopause after you release all your demons. But even then, you'll feel perimenopause even while you're releasing demons. I felt major hot flashes. I don't really anymore. I don't have bone loss, but I have intermittent periods. I just had a period that I hadn't had since February happen just within the last couple weeks. Okay, but I don't have any bone loss. I don't have any other, maybe I might feel a little bit of heat every so often, but not as much as I used to. Okay? And so you see how women get radicalized into thinking they are disenfranchised. Oh, women's rights, we got all the doctors and now pay attention to us. Oh, if you want a doctor to pay attention to you or a holistic professional, they will, and they'll pay attention to you out of existence. And so you see how the system has gotten women to ask for their destruction. Like literally ask for their destruction. So you see how women get radicalized into thinking they are disenfranchised, and they beg for the system to destroy them. It's a man's world in the medical holistic system, but I can give a shit. I don't need the medical holistic system. And if you've been made to think Some of you need it, the medical holistic system, but even then they can't even cure you and make your life pain-free, especially when life wants to live and you're constantly trying to attack it. And then your friends and family badger you into seeing a doctor or nurse or be under the influence of something. All right. And so when I made that Facebook reel about with all those coffins and funerals and people crying over someone's death and all that, and there's a song on Suits that had such a haunting melody. And then that just struck me, my creative juices, to then take that melody to then my intention to condense a funeral and tombs and people crying over someone dead into that reel. That's why I posted that. And that's showing you that this is just a friendly reminder how death is so final. And if you lost control over your body, mind, and spirit in fear, using shame, humiliation, fear, bribery, love, brutality, and intending to convert people by being right with your politics, religion, and science activism, it won't matter what you do when you intend to pass away anyways. And so this is why parents leverage their kids' future. This is why parents leverage their kids' future. And so then what was it all for? When you intend to end up, if this is where you intend to end up anyways. So you're not saving anyone because you haven't even saved yourself. And so that's the moral to that story of all those caskets and tombs and funeral services that was in that Facebook reel with that haunting melody, is that if you don't take care of yourself, first of all, that's the suffering that your kids are going to be under watching that whole ritual. And is that really where you want to end up, as a ghost that potentially could be kidnapped and stuffed into a lesser intelligent being that was being bred on the market, commodified? And maybe, I doubt you'll get a major memory. If you do get a memory of being a human in an animal, and then let's say maybe you're in a smarter animal like a German Shepherd or a Husky, then you're going to assimilate on some level to the family that you're in, and you better hope it's a nice family. But as soon as you start changing and evolving, that family is taking you to the veterinary system, and they're going to get shots done to you. They're going to have things scooped out of you and surgically taken out of you. They're going to take away your balls, take away your ovaries, take away everything. Cause trauma to your body. And then you have to go and recover and go back to the family and try to live as much as you can. And that's what I'm saying. Death is so final. It really is. Don't let anyone sensationalize and say that death is an amazing thing. It's a great thing to look forward to. People do. They can't wait to pass away. They can't wait to give you the things to help you pass away. And so the makings of a Babylonian society. If parents cannot change, they are leveraging their kids' future. Love, fear, brutality, bribery, shame, humiliation, all the ingredients to politics, religion, spirituality, and science programming. All the ingredients to leverage the bait in our society, or predator, prey, or victim, or perp. That's why you're seeing so many hot girls all over. OnlyFans, Facebook Reels, Instagram, YouTube, and why the Hollywood stars are promoting so many aspects of their sex and body and plastic surgery and Botox. Beauty has been weaponized, and it will turn people into not only predators, because they'll use their beauty as a way to get into someone's door, and they will also be prey to someone who wants to use that beauty, and human trafficking is at an all-time high. That's why I don't want to be hot. I want to be intellectual. I want to be smart, survival. I'm not putting myself in really shitty-ass positions out there, and I will not use my body to get ahead. But you're going to see these young girls who don't know any better, and their parents or moms are also been highly sexualized, and they've made their kids into Stepford wives. You see that even in the Rothschilds. The Hiltons. Nikki Hilton did not have the same programming as her sister. Her sister came out with a book that said, oh, she was victimized and groomed. And then you see how her world is. You saw what she had to deal with growing up. Paris Hilton. And you saw what Nikki Hilton had to deal with. She didn't have the same kind of lifestyle that her sister had. Two different programming. Okay? That's the rich sending their kids off and having different programming done to them. Stepford wife or some kind of influencer in sexuality. And so some of these parents don't even realize that they're setting their kids up to fail because they're riding on the sexuality to get ahead. Oh, yeah, they'll get tempted into something, or somebody will use them and find a way to take them away or somewhere, because it's not about the brain in that family. It's all about the body. That's what's crazy. So anyways, good luck, all of you guys. I'm saying that you guys are going to need it. You guys are going to need the luck because it's highly aggressive. And the more that the environment turns up and the heat turns up, the smarter I'm going to be. The more the environment turns up and the heat turns up, now you guys are at a crossroads. You can choose to then keep taking away your intelligence and live in fear, live in bribery, live in love, brutality, and shame and humiliation. Or you can turn that shit around and become smart and balance all of that stuff out to protect yourself. But you know how it goes. Everyone has their intentions. You can't convert them, but at least give people the choice. All right, bye.